On the other side of this deal were the Atlanta Hawks. And when this Cam Reddish deal first got announced, everybody said the Atlanta Hawks lost the trade. They got fleeced. Bill Simmons came out and said, this is the first time I've seen the Knicks fleece a team since I was in college. Now, do you believe that's true? Do you think that the Hawks lost this trade? Right now, they are struggling. They're 17-23. They're the 12th team in the Eastern Conference, even with Trae Young averaging 27 and 9. So 2 questions. Did they lose this trade, and will the Hawks bounce back?
They only lose this trade if Cam becomes a star. This is a hindsight thing. Like, we only know if they lost this trade in hindsight. I don't think we can figure that out right now. Cam wasn't helping this team, and this team isn't. I don't think, like, offensively they're still great. You know, they've been banged up, but when they're healthy, offensively they're still an amazing team. Trae Young is having a career year. His efficiency has been up this year. You know, DeAndre Hunter, he's been in and out of the lineup, but when he plays, he's good. It's their defense. Their defense has been abysmal. You know, Clint Capella hasn't been the defensive anchor for them. Their guys on the wings haven't been good on defense. And then, of course, we know what Trae Young is going to do defensively. So that's going to be what it is. So it's tough when the team who isn't good on defense and on offense, all their guys don't play. It's tough for them to consistently get a run going. Now, last year, you know, they were bad, and then they went on a tear, and then end up making a run in the playoffs. But this year, I just feel like it's different because they weren't. I just feel like they are so banged up, and guys are just missing. And even then, last year, you saw the defense make an effort. You know, defensively, they made a push. I just don't know if this year is going to be that year where they can definitely do that. They definitely have the talent, but I wouldn't say they, like, alluding to your first, I wouldn't say they got fleeced until we see what Cam Reddish is. I think they made a good move, hopefully, to go out and get another player that could help them. Maybe a Ben Simmons, like you said, maybe a Jeremy Grant or something like that. You know, somebody who could just help them defensively, a guy who understands his role and then maybe help them defense. Because I don't think guys like Kevin Huerter, Bogle, I don't think those guys are defensive players, so they're not going to get it done on the defensive end.
It's tough because from the moment the Luka Doncic trade happened, Cam Reddish was that add-on to them getting Trae Young. So we're all expecting Cam to, you know, be like that cream on top of how good Trae Young is, the add-on to make it feel like it was an even trade. So I feel like our expectations are even higher for Cam. And then in Atlanta, he was just not good for them generally. This year, as you alluded to earlier, I think one of us, 17 points worse per 100 possessions. Defensively, he has the tools to be a very good perimeter defender. He showed it last year when he comes into the Eastern Conference Finals, against the Bucks, plays good defense on Chris Middleton. Now, he was still getting his buckets, but he was playing good defense on Middleton, generally speaking. But for the Hawks, they were trying to, as you talked about it as well, they were trying to get Quentin Grimes around the draft, and they couldn't because Cam Reddish's value is so low. He's shown the flashes, but overall, he's been a complete negative for the Hawks. One of their worst rotation players this year, last year as well. They went 31-15 when he was not in the lineup. When he was actually playing, they're 10-16. So along with them swapping head coaches, Bogdanovich getting back healthy after missing some time last year of a lower body injury, Cam Reddish gets hurt and they take off. And it's like this year they're trying to find clarity with DeAndre Hunter just coming back into the lineup. They're trying to find some continuity as well. Cam Reddish hasn't been helping them. So, like, from my perspective at least, they're getting good value out of Cam because his value to most teams in the league was not a first-round pick. They've been trying to trade him for a first for a while now. The Knicks finally gave him one. Now that pick's heavily lottery protected, so like 4 years from now, if the Hornets just don't make the playoffs and so on, it could convey into like 2 seconds and it's worth nothing. But for the Hawks, I think it's really them trying to get as much value as they could for Cam because he wasn't going to develop there specifically. And there's a lot of guys with him and John Collins who wanted bigger roles. They weren't going to get them there. So for them, I feel like it's them getting assets to leverage that into a bigger trade down the line to pair along a good player that's more established along with Trae.
I mean, I pretty much agree. I mean, you can't say this was a fleece, obviously, until we see what Cam Reddish does with the Knicks. He's 22 years old, so he may have time to develop. Maybe a new environment will help him out. But other than that, I mean, I kind of agree with what River said. I mean, he was the odd man out. You have a bunch of other players who play for that team that deserve more money than him. You know, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins got paid. All these guys are better players than him, and he was basically the odd man out. But just like River said, I mean, this team's horrible defensively. I mean, they give up 112 points per game, which is like bottom 5 in the league in points per game allowed. They have a terrible assist-to-turnover ratio. They turn over the ball a lot. Opponents shoot 47% from the field on them and 37% from the three on them. So this is a team that's not getting it done defensively. And, like we all alluded to, Cam Reddish, his defensive IQ really isn't there, so he really isn't going to help much out as well. I mean, he has the tools to be a good defender, 6'8" long, but obviously he didn't show up with the Atlanta Hawks. DeAndre Hunter's the safer player. We talked about this for years. I mean, he is older, but he's more of a win-now player that we can all agree to. He just has to stay on the court. But when he's on the court, we all know his value. I mean, I've seen games where he's guarded Kevin Durant pretty well and made things tough on Kevin Durant, so he's only going to help them. But, hopefully this move in the long run can, like John said, set up Atlanta with a more proven player that they can pair with Trae Young, or even dating back to Joel's Ben Simmons take, maybe that's an option for them. But right now this team needs to focus on defense and paying the players that need to get paid, and Cam Reddish was just not an option for either one of them. They didn't want to pay him, and in terms of defensively, he's not that good either. So his offense doesn't make up for how bad his defense was. So I think in the long run we'll get an answer, but right now I think it's just even playing field, and we got to see what Cam Reddish does.
Cam Reddish wanted a bigger role, and given the production that he's given the Atlanta Hawks, he didn't deserve one. It's as simple as that. John Collins right now wants a bigger role. He's averaging 17 and 8 right now and has the lowest usage percentage of his entire career. And when he was asked about the problems with the Atlanta Hawks after they blew a lead to the Miami Heat and they got totally smacked in the third quarter, he said, togetherness, communication, but really we need some damn heart. We've just got to come out there and play hard and want to win, and that's the biggest thing. So he thinks the biggest thing is effort. They paid John Collins in the offseason. You mentioned they paid Kevin Huerter in the offseason. DeAndre Hunter is up next, and he is more valuable to the Hawks than Cam Reddish. I don't think they got fleeced in this because, like you mentioned, teams around the NBA didn't view Cam Reddish as a positive asset. They didn't view him as an asset. But every single team in the NBA views a first-round pick as an asset. You mentioned a first-round pick, teams' eyes light up and they're going at the bits to try and get it. But for Cam Reddish, there's only a few teams that really wanted him because he still has to develop. There's still a lot of raw potential there, and who knows if that's ever going to be realized. This was a good move for the Hawks, in my opinion, trading Cam Reddish, because he was minus 17.4 point differential. That is abysmal. It's one of the worst in the NBA, and for as much as we praise Cam Reddish's potential, the output doesn't match the praise. It just doesn't. The Atlanta Hawks needed to start new, and right now they just need to get a defensive-minded wing who can also maybe get some offense. Some players that I think they can acquire. Ben Simmons is one of the guys at the top of my list, but Jeremy Grant could be a name. But if they don't want to shoot for the stars, because those players, you have to give up a couple of assets for those guys. They could get a Dylan Brooks. Now that Desmond Bane has emerged, and you got John Conchar, your guy, he's playing well rotationally. Dylan Brooks now can become a little bit expendable, and if the Atlanta Hawks give the right offer, they could get Dylan Brooks, and he'd be perfect next to Trae Young. Or you can get a role player like Kenrich Williams from OKC, who would be nice for them rotationally, or a Keita Bates-Diop, who's doing okay in San Antonio now. So there are a couple players who can be pretty good for them in that role. You're laughing, but he's a good player.
I laugh because he laughed.
Nah, I saw him play the other day. He's not that bad. That's why I was laughing. I
only laughed because he laughed.
Yeah,
That's
pretty good.
Shout out Cam in the fourth quarter. He made a video on, it was like a Timberwolves video 3 years ago when Keita Bates-Diop as a reserve on the Timberwolves.
He's not that bad.
Somehow the dude was getting 0 minutes in 2K, but he was averaging 20 minutes a game. It was like the weirdest 2K bug. So Keita Bates-Diop was a legend for that for a few years and came in the fourth quarters channel.
Yeah, Diop is good, bro. I think he can be a good rotational piece for them. But this season they're 17 and 23, 12th in the East. Last year they started out 14 and 20. We all thought Lloyd Pierce was the problem because Nate McMillan went on this huge run. Now this year they're starting out the same way, so it's leading a lot of Hawks fans to think like, okay, what is the real dilemma here? And I think what John Collins said is right. It's just they don't play with passion. They don't play with heart. And before the season, I got so much hate for this, and I got laughed at by you, and we had back and forth on this all the time. But I told you I think their season was a fluke.
Well,
because when your team is so young and you come off that much success, and next year you think you're better than you are and you don't play as hard. The same thing happened to the Boston Celtics when they went to the ECF without Kyrie and Hayward. Then when they came back, their team totally collapsed. We see it a lot. And The Hawks, I thought last season was a fluke. Somebody even mentioned me on Twitter and was like, I'm coming to you and I'm eating crow because the Hawks were a fluke last season. Very humble dude. But I don't, I don't like the Hawks too much, but being non-biased about this trade, I thought it was a good move for the Hawks. And I think everybody's saying that they got fleeced. I really don't feel that way because I don't think Cam Reddish was providing enough for them to say they got fleeced in this trade.
You try to say Boston. It's different. I don't know.
I know it's different because you brought back 2 primetime players. I know.
No, not even that, because they at least made the playoffs the next year. Like even at least Boston, when they went to the ECF and they was riding hot, at least they went back to the playoffs. This team might not make the playoffs, and I think with this team, a lot of Hawks fans just are they're frustrated with the fact that the team hasn't been healthy. This team has been dealing with a lot of injuries. And John Collins, another thing he emphasized in that is ball movement. I don't think he necessarily wants a bigger role per se, but I just think he wants to emphasize ball movement. I think he wants to emphasize team effort. I think he feels like that's the best way to get a win. And like you said, working on the defensive end, at least I don't think we can all agree he's not the best defender, but he gives his effort on the defensive end, when he has to go play the 5 and guard Embiid, or stuff like that. He gives his effort on the defensive end. So we can't say he doesn't give effort, but this Atlanta team, it is tough. And like you said, a Dylan Brooks could work. Maybe if they get a Ben Simmons, but I feel like Hunter and Collins would probably have to go. Like that would probably cost for Ben Simmons, Or
they have said that it was reported by Jake Fisher from Bleacher Report that they're willing to trade everyone outside of Trey and Capella. So that includes Collins, Bogdanovich, Hunter, Herder, Gallinari. I think Gallinari is going to be the odd man out, and he's getting paid $20 million a year. That's how much his contract is right now. So that could match Jeremy Grant's contract or Gordon's contract. Houston, I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawks offer a first-round pick to Houston with Gallinari. I think they'll take on the contract and trade them Eric Gordon. I don't think Detroit does that, though. I think Jeremy Grant's a little bit too valuable for them.
No, I think
they would have to give up more.
Yeah, I think Detroit does if they give up another first-round pick, like maybe 2, and then Dan alone, they'd be like, all right, we'll rock that one, maybe protect it or something like that. But yeah, they said Trey and Capella are the only ones untouchable. So which means for all DeAndre Hunter has done, he's still tradable. For all Kevin Herter has done, he's still tradable.
It's availability for him.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like for him, do you extend him? He hasn't been available in his last 2 seasons. Last year was very important for them. He came back in the playoffs. That was an important year. And they, like you said they went on a run when Cam went out. DeAndre Hunter went out in that run too. And they went on that run too. You forget to say that.
It was a little bit before then, though.
Yeah, but you forget to say that DeAndre Hunter was hurt too, and they went out and they went on that run also. But I'm not saying he's not. He's still more valuable, of course. But so DeAndre Hunter, he's been hit. Same with Cam. He's been hit with the injury bug the last 2 seasons too. So for him, do you extend him and pray that he's healthy, or do you trade him and just say, all right, well, his availability is not good. That's another one. And Kevin Herter, what do you do with him? Because he's been inefficient. He's been up and down in terms of consistency. What do you do with him? So it's tough. Atlanta's in a pretty tough position. I think Capella should be up for trade too. I don't think he should be.
Exactly.
I don't understand what that means.
Like with Onyeka Konwu, I have a lot of faith in him. Like
he's
being
6'8".
He's also. I mean, he gets hit with the injury bug too.
Bam Adebayo is like 6'9". And he's also like a year in.
But he's 6'8" though.
I
want a 6'8" center.
He's extremely
his wingspan is ridiculous.
Nah, it is. I know. He's a good defender.
He's versatile, and I think he has some shooting potential as well. Stretch out the floor. With Clint Capella last year, with no DeAndre, no Cam Reddish, who in theory was a good defender. Clint Capella carried that defense. He was that X factor for them in the way. They had Bogdanovich shooting the lights out at the end of the year. Trae Young doing his thing. John Collins was not putting up better numbers, but he was so impactful for them. He does so much for them. Clint Capella carried the defense. He led it. This year it hasn't been the exact same. So it's just like up until the training camp, he had barely started running. He had an injection into his Achilles going into the year. So he was still getting to the right conditioning shape. And also he may be dealing with lingering effects and stuff like that. Because the Achilles thing, that was dating back to when he got to Atlanta, I'm pretty sure, over a year. And it was a lead up to the start of this year where it wasn't the same. So, I think even with Clint Capella, he should be, if it's for the right price, smooth as well. If they can, especially with Onyeka, if he's playing well, they should definitely think about it.
The Hawks have lost 9 straight games at home after starting 8.
When does Onyeka come back?
Onyeka's already
He's
back.
back?
He's
Yeah,
already back.
yeah.
He had
Yeah, it's been
8
like a
points and
minutes.
7 rebounds last game, I believe.
Good.
It
Finally.
was around there. He started.
No, good because
He started.
He's been missing.
I think
some time.
Kevin Herter's been up and down because he doesn't have a defined role.
I think his
his-
role should be defined.
I mean, his role is supposed to be a rotational player off the bench, a 6-man kind of. But because of DeAndre Hunter's injury, sometimes he has to start. So I think his role is always changing because of the injuries that Atlanta has.
Yeah.
Also, Lou Will last year gave them a spark. Now this year, really,
He's old.
yeah, I know, but he's such a negative for them.
He checked out.
Yeah, he's cooked.
retiring after
He's
this
toast,
year.
bro.
He's checked.
He's done so.
You can't count on
checked
him,
out.
and if you can't even try to trade him. He's gonna retire.
And then
Yeah.
DeLon Wright, God, it's like I remember watching him. He airballed the floater, and I was just like, damn, like what's up? Like,
So do you think the Hawks are gonna come back, or will they miss the playoffs?
Oh man, that's a tough question for me. My Toronto takes looking good. They're gonna get into the play-in. Boston, you can't. I don't know about you, bro, but I can't say Boston's gonna miss a play-in. They're just those two guys are just too good. Washington's probably the only team where I can see Atlanta eventually taking, but then you guys are in front of them. I'm gonna say no. I don't think Atlanta. I think Atlanta. I think that take dies, and our bet dies, and Atlanta does not make the playoffs. But then that's good because youth and they get a pick. So
Yeah.
add in more guys, and all right, see how that goes.
I don't know if that's the best thing though, because I mean the reason Atlanta went out and got so many guys in free agency was because they couldn't wait on anybody to
But
develop.
if they get the number one pick, then life becomes so much easier.
You think, but that's like a very far fetched idea.
It is, but it's not. The lottery these days, if they get even a top 3 pick, life becomes easy because then they don't even have to pick anybody. Then you can trade. Then you can really trade it, and then you can get somebody who's really nice. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you got to think outside the box, man. You never know. You got to think outside the
They're
box.
gonna need some
think that's
Memphis luck
far-fetched.
to get a top 3 pick.
Hey, listen, you never know, man. You got to think outside. Even a top 6, 7 pick, you can trade that. You can get somebody. Then Ben Simmons, if he's still there, or Jamie Grant becomes a lot easier. You know what I'm saying? Not saying I would trade Jamie Grant for a 7th pick. God, no.
If you're Detroit though, you would though.
Oh, if I'm Detroit, God, yeah. But I'm talking about Atlanta. Nah, I need something better. But like, if that's what's on the market, then all right, yeah, I'll make the move. But you got to think outside the box, man.